Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good afternoon. I want to continue this Dhamma talks. I think you already know this is the last talk on this series, and today I want to point out all this whole week we were talking about various aspects of Jhana, or in several short instructions I mentioned how you attain Jhana. I mentioned several times we need mindfulness and clear comprehension. Above all, you need a great deal of patience. And the practice of metta. These are prerequisites for the attainment of jhana. When you started the practice, also I mentioned when everything is quiet, assuming your posture is reasonably comfortable, weather is reasonably good, not too much humidity, not too hot, not too cold, and there are not too many sounds, disturbances, and you also are in a good mood to meditate. When all these things combine together, if you are not mindful and do not have clear comprehension, then it is quite possible that you fall asleep. And that is very, very common thing. Very sweet. Sleepiness is very sweet. We welcome it because the body is relaxed, mind is relaxed, and everything else is reasonably conducive to sleepiness. And you immediately fall asleep. After about an hour or so, either we ring the bell or somebody makes a noise, you wake up and say, I had a wonderful jhana. I attained the fourth jhana. It is very common. Very often we hear people attaining straight away fourth jhana. not first, second, third and so forth, straight away fourth jhana. Friends, you got to be very alert, awake, mindful, and clearly understand what is sleepiness and what is jhana. If you cannot make the distinction between these two, you are deluding yourself. And therefore, overcome that sleepiness. I gave several recommendations to overcome sleepiness. Either pinch your earlobes with the thumb and index finger hard enough to wake you up, and you feel the pinch. Don't get just shaken out. Pinch. And then that wakes you up. If that does not work, you take a deep breath, hold it. Remember these hints, these are the hints. Take a deep breath, hold it as long as you can. Of course, if you have a heart problem, don't do that. Otherwise, take a deep breath and hold it as long as you can, and then slowly breathe out. Again, take a deep breath, hold it as long as you can, and slowly breathe out. When you do it several times, your body warms up. You wake up. You even perspire. Sleepiness will vanish. If that does not work, when sleepiness vanishes, you start the practice, focus your mind on the breath. If that doesn't work, stand up and do standing meditation. That also is wonderful posture. And meditate, focus your mind on the breath, becoming aware of your breath, rising, falling, rising, falling, rising, falling. If you fall asleep while standing, you fall down. And therefore, in that posture you have to be even more careful. If that is going to happen, you do walking meditation. And in walking meditation also you focus your mind on the breath, feeling of the breath, changing of the breath, your steps, pay total attention to them. Maybe one at a time you pay attention to. All these or some of these, or one at a time. You choose. And then the sleepiness will fade away and come back and sit again. Because while walking you don't attain jhana. That is even more dangerous. You lose your balance and fall down. Sit down and start again. If that doesn't work, wash your face with cold water. Don't hesitate to go out and wash your face with cold water. And come back. That is also very practical. If all of them fail, have a short nap. That is very practical. Most of them are very helpful and to overcome your sleepiness. Then what happens when sleepiness is overcome? Its opposite hindrance will arise. What is opposite hindrance? Restlessness and worry. Because mind got too agitated, too excited. And you started blaming yourself for wasting your time. So you start mind is becoming very exalted. At that time, in order to bring your mind back to the breath, as I suggested, count. There are various types of counting. I recommend only one of them, others also are effective. That counting is, you breathe in, breathe out, count 1. Again breathe in, breathe out, count 2. In, out, 3. Go up to 10. And stop at the 10. And count down from 10 to 1. And then go from 1 to 9. Second round, go from 1 to 9. And come to 1. Third time, go from 1 to 8. Come down to 1. Fourth time, from 1 to 7. 7 to 1. Then 1 to 6, 6 to 1. 1 to 5, 5 to 1. 1 to 4, 4 to 1. 1 to 3, 3 to 1. 1 to 2, 2 to 1 and 1. Repeat this several times. When you repeat it, suppose you are at 7, then mind wanders again. What you should do? Come back to 7. You understand that the mind is wandering, come back to 7. When you come back to 7, you don't remember whether to go from 7 to 8 or 7 to 6. Because one time you went up to from 7 to 8, another time 7 to 6, now you got confused. When you are confused, you start all over again. When you do it all over again, several times, your wandering mind gets tired. This is a technique to tire your mind out. And then it stays on the breath. Then what happens? It is possible for one of the other three fetters to arise. One is greed. You remember something you like very much. Say, in a day like this, very your most favorable ice cream. You remember. How can you meditate without ice cream? This keeps coming again and to your mind, you cannot meditate. Here, of course, very difficult, because we don't have ice cream in our stock. Perhaps at home, you may have ice cream in the fridge, in the refrigerator. That is even more dangerous. You cannot meditate. You so slowly you get up and tiptoe to the kitchen. And then eat some ice cream. And come back and try to meditate. How can you meditate? With all the sugar in your body, you are very energetic. You cannot meditate. Then you think, my goodness, now what can I do? then the solution is when that greed arises for ice cream, friends, that is the time to practice renunciation. Renunciation. You think renunciation is such a big thing to do? No. Renunciation means letting go of our greed. When that desire, this greed for ice cream arises in the mind, you make a commitment. You must say to yourself, I have eaten ice cream so many thousands of times in my life. I should be able to let go of this desire for ice cream now. I should not be a slave to my taste for ice cream. Taste of ice cream. I'm not a child. I'm doing something very serious. Something for my life. Ice cream is not going to bring me any iota of peace. This desire, this greed has been nagging me all my life. Desire has given me trouble all my life. This is the time I must restrain myself, discipline myself, talk to yourself. This is the time you got to be mindful. This is the time you got to have a clear comprehension. Use your mindfulness, clear comprehension to understand the danger of this desire. And when you chide yourself, scold yourself, advise yourself, think very mindfully, you definitely will see this desire for ice cream goes away. That is renunciation. Renunciation in the ultimate sense is letting go of all desire completely. That begins with little, giving up little desire. The desire for ice cream is not very little. But that is how we begin. So let go of it. Then you feel great peace in you. You can think all dangers of eating ice cream. Sugar, blood, what you call diabetes, agitation, excitement, and becoming slave to the taste and so forth. Think of all these disadvantages and think of your own adult, responsible, intelligent, serious, meditating life. Think about it. This is how we discipline ourselves. So we let go of this ice cream, this desire. And then can arise maybe resentment, anger. Of course, that also sometimes with some cause and sometimes without cause. Cause may be something you remember. You had an argument with somebody has done something very nasty to you. Any situation, family, job, neighbor, friends, whatever. You remember them and perhaps you may get upset, angry. Or you may get upset with yourself that you don't have a discipline, you are wasting your time and I'm not for this, I'm not, everybody else can meditate. I am poor me, cannot meditate, so you pity yourself, you get upset and you get angry. Anything can cause anger. At that time, the first thing is think of the disadvantage of anger. Anger is never going to give us peace, never going to give us any justice. There is no just anger. Although people tend to say just anger, there is no just anger. Anger is harmful, painful, and detrimental to even our health. Somebody who is getting angry again and again and again can even have a lot of other problems like sleeplessness. I don't know what other dangers physically one may experience, but that is always very problematic. So we think of the disadvantages. And then, remember we start our meditation with metta. This is the time to bring our metta back to our mind when we are getting angry. Don't wait for anger to arise for you to practice metta. Begin meditation with metta. When you begin meditation with metta, metta meditation experience take root in your mind. And then there is no room for anger to arise in that mind. You protect your metta like a mother protects her only child at the risk of her life. There is a discourse called Kakachupama Sutta, delivered because of a monk called Bhavana. And there, Buddha said, bhikkhus, if somebody, here he talk about patience, which I mentioned several times when you practice meditation, we need patience. There he said, bhikkhus, if somebody, this is a very stark, very vivid, dramatic simile. He said, because even if somebody take a saw and cut your limbs one by one, at that time, if any of you, bhikkhus, get angry, resentful, you are not following my instructions. Even at that time, you go to practice patience. When anger rises, friends, we must remember this kind of instructions of the Buddha. That is why we have the Dhamma, to rescue ourselves, to seek refuge in the Dhamma. This is how we seek refuge in the Dhamma, to rescue us from difficulties, from problems. Go to the resource of the Dhamma and recall these instructions and think about them. Similarly, when anger arises, remember your metta. Your metta. I repeatedly mention have patience and have metta. These two factors are very important to practice Jhana. Then the last of this series of hindrances is doubt. I think I mentioned it at our interview maybe this morning to those who came for interviews. Doubt is called vichikiccha in Pali. Chikitsa in Sanskrit means treatment. Chikitsa means treatment for sickness. In Pali word chikitsa. Chikitsa, chikitsa in Pali. Chikitsa Sanskrit, chikitsa in Pali. Vi chikitsa or vi chikitsa means untreatable. Cannot treat. That is called skeptical doubt. The doubt is nagging you all the time. No matter what you learn, how many answers you get to your question, you are not satisfied. You ask a question and the teacher answers the question to the best of his ability. You are not interested in the answer. You are thinking of the next question. So he answered it again. And you are in the same frame of mind, thinking of another question. No matter how long you spend with the teacher and how many times you ask questions, how many times he answers your question, your answer never go into your mind. It is just like pouring water on the duck's back. That kind of doubt is called skeptical doubt, vichikiccha. There is another kind of doubt, intellectual doubt, that Buddha encouraged. Questioning, with the intention of learning something. When you get the satisfactory answer, you will be happy. If you want to get it more clarified, you ask even more questions about the answer you got. To answer another question, you have to listen to the answer very clearly. This way you can improve your knowledge. So asking questions is very important practice, supports our investigation, not Dhamma, fact of enlightenment. Investigation, not Dhamma, fact of enlightenment. So we have to ask questions. Anyway, when you sit to meditate, you may have unanswerable questions. At that time, you cannot find all the answers. Therefore, from the very beginning and even now mentioned, we have to have trust and confidence in the system. Have faith in the Buddha, not blind faith. You have to have faith with understanding. Faith with understanding. That is called avecchaprasada. Avecchaprasada is translated into English as unshakable faith. It is not unshakable. Aveccha means understanding. Having understood, or faith endowed with understanding. Faith endowed with understanding is called avecchaprasada. Then arises akaravati saddha. Akaravati means reasonable faith. Reasonable. Then comes achala saddha, unshakable faith. So you have faith with understanding, faith with reason, and faith that does not shake, unshakable faith. Firm. So, in order to have this type of faith, you got to know the Dhamma. Resort Dhamma. Go to the Buddha. Think of the Buddha. Think of the system that he taught. We are taking the Buddha's teaching, and from the very beginning I told you that we are practicing right jhana. Right jhana is supported by understanding, thinking, speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort and right mindfulness. These 7 factors support right concentration. And this is invariably true. There is no alternative. And therefore, when we mention these things, you think, oh, this is too much theory, too much words, too much this, too much that. We cannot digest. How can we practice this and that? Please be very serious. When you are serious, you remember at least these basic things to practice. Instead of going into a great deal of details, have at least these basic facts and figures at hand in order to practice gain right Jhana. And then, when you have faith, trust in the Buddha, Dhamma, Sangha, morality, and dependent origination. Dependent origination is a very huge lofty subject. And yet in a daily life you can experience dependent origination. You can experience it. I give you one simple example. Because of your not understanding situation, you sometimes get angry. You get angry. And when you very mindfully watch why you got angry, it depends on your degree of understanding. You become confused. That depends on the degree of your understanding. If you don't understand, you get confused. Like that, every thing that we experience is a function of dependent origination. None of them is permanent, all these are impermanent. Even dependent origination, every factor is impermanent. Anyway, so we have to have trust. All this happen because of the causes and conditions. We have to trust and believe. And when we have all this at hand, now you have your sleepiness and drowsiness overcome. When you are sleepy and drowsy, you are like in a prison. When you are in a prison, you don't know what is happening outside the prison walls. You are trapped. And then sleepiness and drowsiness is like a slave mentality. You know, you are quite familiar with slaves in this country. I don't want to go into that. Slaves are always restless. Why? They think any time slave master will punish them. That is the mentality. When you overcome this restlessness and worry, you are free from that mentality. When you overcome your sleepiness and drowsiness, you feel that you are free from prison, jail. You can go anywhere you like, do whatever you want without committing another crime to go to the jail. Then, anger. When you are angry, you are like a sick person, a patient. The Pali, English word for anger is called ill will. Ill will means your will is ill. You are like a patient. When you overcome your anger, you are like one who is free from your sickness. When you overcome when you have greed, you are like having what you call debt. Having debt. Suppose you have paid all your debts, your mortgage, your credit card, your TV, computer, that's all you have paid. Then you are free from debt. When you are in doubt, you are like in a desert. When you come out of doubt, again you are able to see, have water. As I mentioned yesterday about the man seeing another man coming in with wet hair, wet body and so on, you feel very glad. Now, when you are free from all these hindrances, you feel very, very relaxed, very, very free, full of joy. Now, you are previously focusing mind on the breath. Now you have overcome your hindrances and joy arises, then you focus the mind on the joy. And this joy arises slowly, gradually, a little bit at a time. Slowly, slowly arises. And your mind becomes more and more delightful. More and more delightful. And increasing this joy by degrees. When joy increased, it culminates in happiness. Happiness is even calmer than joy. When joy arises, it is really kind of energetic, not very ordinary joy, but this is the joy of not having hindrances in the mind. When you have hindrances, you cannot have joy. Especially in meditation practice. When the hindrances are gone, joy arises, then joy becomes an object of meditation. You pay attention to it, and joy increases, and then you experience a great deal of happiness. Happiness is the contentment, because now hindrances are gone, you are full of joy, then you are content, you are happy. When happiness arises, what is called initial application of thought and sustained application of thought arises. Initial application is what? What is initial application? Vitakka vichara. What is vitakka? I see. That is a very, very common answer. Vitakka explained in commentaries, Visuddhimagga and so forth, as bringing the mind to the object. Bringing the mind to the object. Bringing the mind to the object, this meaning you can never find in the word vitakka in any sutra, any discourse. Never. And Buddha explained vitakka even in Chula Vedala Sutta, when the word Arahant Bhikkhuni Dhammadinna explained to Vishaka, her former husband, what vitakka is. And Buddha has explained it in his discourses, many places. They are called two types of vitakka, kusala vitakka, akusala vitakka. Here, up to now, until overcoming hindrances, you had akusala vitakka, unwholesome vitakka, unwholesome thought. Now after overcoming hindrances, you have kusala vitakka. What is kusala vitakka? What is akusala vitakka? Kusala means skillful. Kusala means skill. Akusala means unskilled. Hindrances are unskilled mental state, unskilled thoughts. Why unskilled? They make you agitated, excited, restless, worried, this and that, all kind of mental agitation and so forth. No peace of mind. And if you bring this back to your mind again and again and again, then you develop your akusala vitakka. What are the akusala vitakka? There are three. Greed, hatred and cruelty. In other words, clinging, resenting and cruelty. These are three unwholesome thoughts. They are called akusala vitakka. Unskillful thoughts. What are the kusala vitakkas? Wholesome thoughts. What are they? Nekkhamma vitakka, avyapada vitakka and avihimsa vitakka. Nekkhamma vitakka means letting go, thought of letting go. When we practice, when we overcome the hindrance called kama, chanda, desire, we overcome them. What arises? Wholesome vitakka. Letting go of thought. Thought that you let go of greed. Let go of attachment. You let go of your desire for ice cream. That time you practice kusala vitakka. Wholesome thought. Next is avyapada vitakka, non-hatred. When you practice metta, you practice wholesome thought against unwholesome thought. Unwholesome. Anger is unwholesome, unskillful. Metta is wholesome and skillful. You have been practicing metta. You have been practicing metta from the very beginning of Jhana. And you have been practicing compassion. When it mentioned metta, all the four Brahma Viharas are included there. I mentioned it in my talk. All the four Brahma Viharas are mentioned. Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekka. Now, you let go of your anger, and then it will be, it will be replaced by metta. Metta and karuna. Karuna means compassion, non-cruelty. Non-cruelty. Avihimsa vitakka. These three vitakkas arise in your mind as a wholesome mental states, skillful mental states, as vitakka. These are the vitakkas that arise in your mind. You arouse these vitakkas through practice by letting go of their opposite and allowing these mental state to arise. These, at this stage, they come to fruition. This is the culmination of your metta practice, practice of letting go, and practice of compassion coming to fruition. There has to be somewhere these things must blossom. When you practice right jhana, these things will rise in your mind. I mentioned many times, jhana does not mean just emptying your mind and becoming yourself like a vegetable. In Anupada Sutta, Venerable Sariputta attained jhana, Buddha counted the mental state Venerable Sariputta has in each jhanic state. In the first jhanic, 16 mental states. In Abhidhamma there are 32 mental states, mental factors, chetana, arise in the jhana. Right jhana. We may not count this is number, this is number 2, this is number 3, this is number 4. Don't try to count them. They are there. Just like you are not counting the cells in your body. There are trillions of cells. How many times you start counting cells? Never. There are thousands of hair on your head. Have you ever tried to count them? No, you just carry them on your head. But you know that there are hair. You know that there are cells in the body. Only when you want to talk and have some intellectual discussions and so on, you may start counting them if you want to get some statistics. You are not doing any of those things when you are in jhana. But they happen. They happen. Metta arises in our mind not as words. Friends, metta is working. Its impact is in our mind. Compassion is in our mind. Letting go, renouncing, total renouncing. Because you are letting go of all these things. Letting go. This is called initial application of thought, vitakka. Therefore, there are 3 vitakkas. Vitakka of renunciation, vitakka of loving friendliness, metta, vitakka of non-cruelty or compassion. Then, what is sustained thought? The word itself suggests sustain means once it arose, it remains in that state, in that mind, in jhanic mind, they remain. Now I said how joy arises, when hindrances fade away, joy arises. As joy increases, happiness arises. When happiness increases, vitakka arises. And vichara arises. Then what else? What is remaining? Concentration. In the first jhana, concentration is not very great. Concentration is there, relatively weak concentration. But that concentration is strong enough even to attain stream entry. In the first jhana, when you are in the first jhana, all you have to do is to be in that jhana, then mind is so sharp and clear, free from hindrances, and you have a sufficient concentration to see impermanence, suffering and selflessness. When you attain the stream entry, what is happening? your view of self will vanish. View of self vanish. Remember, I always refer to right concentration. And now you have already attained mundane right concentration. Mundane right concentration. We have vitakka, vichara, piti, sukha, ekagga. We have initial thought, sustained thought, joy, happiness and concentration. Now you can choose two ways. One of the two ways. Or both. One is from there you go to the second jhana, third jhana, fourth jhana and so on. And go to last, base of infinite state, base of consciousness, base of nothingness, base of neither perception nor non-perception. Until then, so long as you are there, you are in mundane jhana, the first degree of jhana. And then if you, any time, even in the first jhana, any time, as your mind is sharp and clean and pure, free from hindrances, you begin to see impermanence more clearly. When you see impermanence more clearly, your notion of self will vanish. That is what the Buddha said in Anatta Lakkana Sutta. Anatta Lakkana Sutta, you can see it in a Vandana book, the book that you have in front of you. Buddha asked bhikkhus, is form permanent or impermanent? Answer is impermanent, venerable sir. That which is impermanent, satisfactory or unsatisfactory? Unsatisfactory, venerable sir. That which is impermanent, unsatisfactory and subject to change, is it proper to think that this I am, this is mine, or this is myself? He said no. So he began with impermanence. So when we see impermanence at that level, in the first jhanic level, you are very, very clearly, don't try to jump to attain supramundane. You see this non-existence of self, because everything is breaking, appearing, disappearing, just like seeing atoms. I'm not trying to promote atomism, I don't know anything about atomism, but I heard when people are shown now whether the atom is moving horizontally or vertically or diagonally, he said all. It is not stationary. So, similarly, when you break the atom, you don't see anything, even a molecule you cannot see. They are all volatile. Likewise, when you see everything impermanent, there is nothing to hold on to. Everything is just like bubbles. That is why the Buddha said, Bubbulupama. The body is like a bubble. bubble appears, it gives a vision. Even you can take a photograph of a bunch of bubbles. The form, F-O-R-M is like F-O-A-M. Inside nothing, some air. Even that disappears when it breaks. So everything is like that. In that there is no permanent, eternal self. You see that very clearly, without any doubt. That instant you promote yourself up to the supramundane jhana. You continue your jhana and keep practicing supramundane jhana. Then you will see everything impermanent is unsatisfactory, everything unsatisfactory is without self. Then you will see all my life I have been practicing all kinds of rituals. These rituals have no meaning at all. When you are in the second moment of the stream entry, then you continue practicing your jhana at the supramundane level. Now you are supramundane level. Keep practicing. Then whatever doubt you had already overcome doubt to attain jhana. That is only temporary thing, temporary overcoming. Now, with the double strength, with the reinforcement, you practice jhana. Now, the doubt that you temporarily overcame will vanish from your mind. Then you are in the stream entry, fruition state. With that, you can continue jhana practice. You can go on to higher level of supramundane attainment with supramundane jhanic level. So friends, when you think about it, when you practice it, you can see this thing happening slowly and gradually. Now, jhana, although there are 4 mundane jhanas or material jhanas, and supramundane attainments also are 4, stream entry, once return, never return, and around. Those should not be confused. One can attain jhanas without attaining supramundane level. One can attain jhana and use jhanic experience to attain supramundane level. Supramundane attainment, like stream entry, once return and so forth. So, I think as a talk, this may be enough. You may write your question, not too many questions. And the rest I try to explain in my evening discussion. For now I think this is enough.